Hu Shu is busy handling work in the middle of her own engagement party, an event her family spent a fortune on so her status would match the groom's when the wedding day came. Then everything falls apart. Her little nephew is playing on a laptop and accidentally plays a voice message from her fiancé. In front of every single guest, the man coldly announces that he wants to call off the engagement. Hu Shu is humiliated in front of all her relatives. A month later, she is still crushed, spending her leave locked in her room. Her best friend Xiaoru pays a hefty price to drag her out to Midnight Express, a trending VR game venue, just to cheer her up. Hu Shu gives in and hopes she can escape reality for a while. Inside the game, she puts on an advanced headset and steps into a simulated world set in the 1930s. She is instantly captivated by a handsome NPC who greets the players with striking charisma and amazed by how real the architecture feels. Over 4 hours, the visitors play out roles with different missions. Hu Shu's task is to deliver a chemical formula that many people are chasing to a certain person. Partway through, a scene reminds her of the past, back when she gave up her dream of studying architecture abroad to pay for her father's treatment after his accident. That memory pushes her to keep going, telling herself she can at least reach her goal inside this game. The person she is supposed to meet turns out to be that charismatic NPC from the very beginning, Qin Xiaoyi. She hands the formula over to him without any suspicion. But as she runs toward the final location, she is shot dead. Xiaoyi is the leader of the enemy side, and he tricked her to steal the formula. Betrayed inside the game and in real life, Hu Shu decides to come back, not to win, but to get revenge. This is love between lines. Hu Shu returns to Midnight Express dressed all in black with a brand new role. This time her mission is to pretend to help Xiaoyi become the ruler of the city while secretly bringing him down. After working through all kinds of tricks and strategies, she lures Xiaoyi into a trap, and his enemies catch him red-handed and defeat him. The win gives Hu Shu fresh courage in the real world. She marches into her boss's office, the man who always blocked her career as a designer, and resigns on the spot, even without a new job lined up. She fills her free time sending out applications and playing VR games, but the actor now playing Xiaoyi is not the same man, and without his commitment the game feels dull and lifeless. She tries to find out who used to play the role, but the staff keep his identity a secret. In the middle of this search, her former future mother-in-law shows up demanding the engagement money back. Hu Shu's father argues with the woman until Hu Shu arrives and reminds her that her parents gave a gift worth double what they received, on top of venue costs the woman never mentioned. The woman leaves in shame. What Hu Shu does not realize is that the mysterious actor who played Xiaoyi is quietly watching the whole thing from a distance, and he happens to be looking for a place to rent. After quitting, Hu Shu helps Xiaoru run a coffee shop called Regard, which sits right next to Midnight Express. She also becomes obsessed with the VR game so she can play alongside the Xiaoyi NPC, but that actor has no fixed schedule. One day, at a gathering hosted by Xiaoru's husband, Hu Shu hears that the Xiaoyi NPC will be at the same venue, so she rushes over, only to be let down when someone else shows up. She does learn that the real Xiaoyi is playing elsewhere, so she hurries after him. She is stuck with the only role left, but she completes her missions well. The game turns tense when she enters an experimental horror section and freezes, too scared to continue, until Xiaoyi appears and shoots down the swarm of ghosts, which miraculously turn into a shower of flower petals. Their missions are connected, so they explore together. But right before the end, Xiaoyi traps her so he can win the game himself. It is his revenge for the time she beat him. After the session, Hu Shu waits outside to offer him her umbrella in the rain, but an employee hands him one first, and he walks off without a word. To cover her living costs, Hu Shu rents out the attic of her home in a traditional alley. As luck would have it, Xiaoyi is searching for a new place in that exact alley. Wanting to keep his identity hidden, he sends his best friend, who also owns Midnight Express, Gong Huaikong, to inspect the place. Hu Xiu signs a contract worth 8,000 yuan for a 3-month lease, with no idea that the real tenant is the very person she has been chasing in the game. While her home is rented out, Hu Xiu stays at the coffee shop. Then one day she realizes the person living in her house is not the Huaikong named in the contract, but Xiao Yi. Every time she tries to confirm it, Huaikong shows up right on time to cover the truth. Meanwhile, Hu Xiu still has not told her parents that she lost her job and rented out her home. In the middle of all this pretending, she gets good news: an interview with Forma, a prestigious architectural design firm. Unfortunately, the interview goes badly because HR decides she is better suited to be an assistant manager, all because her cunning old boss never let her work on real architecture projects. She leaves feeling broken, not realizing that the man sharing the elevator on her way out is Forma's general manager, Pei Zhen. Meanwhile, Zhao Yi's habit of sketching buildings while wandering the neighborhood draws suspicion, and locals accuse him of plotting something sinister. Hu Xiu arrives just in time to clear up the misunderstanding, and thanks to that she finally gets to talk with him. He introduces himself as Jiu. She asks him to sign the lease under his real name and, without meaning to, pours out her frustration about the failed interview. Jiu studies the architectural model she built back in college and praises her unique design style. That small compliment feels like a breath of fresh air. One day, while Hu Xiu is helping at the coffee shop, her parents call to say they are on their way to her home. She rushes back, and luckily Jiu is not there. Around the same time, Jiu is talking with Huaikong at his actual residence, and it comes out that he is one of the founders of Midnight Express, the one responsible for its architectural design. After careful thought, Hu Xiu turns down the assistant manager position from Forma. She realizes that constantly compromising will only push her further from her dream. But right after that decision, panic hits when Jiu suddenly comes home and runs into her father. Sensing Hu Xiu is hiding something, Jiu pretends to be a co-worker stopping by for important documents. She then takes him to a convenience store and promises the whole charade will be over soon. Not long after, Hu Xiu gets an interview call from an architecture firm called Dynamism. The next day she arrives at the office, only to be stunned when she realizes Jiu is the founder of the firm, and he is sitting in on the interview. Even though her experience is questioned, she answers the technical questions about building structure with confidence, explaining that the heart of architecture is the safety of the people who use it. Seeing her potential, Jiu backs her as his chosen candidate. The next day, Jiu brings an updated lease and advises Hu Xiu to be honest with her parents, since everything comes out sooner or later, just like the way he tried to hide his own identity. She misreads this as a sign she failed the interview and feels sad. She lied to her parents in the first place because she did not want them to worry, especially after her wedding fell through. But the sadness disappears when she learns she got the job. On her first day, Hu Xiu is told to contribute ideas for a design competition held by the Lyman Group. The best design will be chosen for their hotel construction project, which would be huge for the company. That night, the team celebrates their new member, and Hu Xiu, eager to make a good impression, forces herself to drink even though she gets drunk easily. She collapses, and Jiu has to take her home himself, while the other employees do nothing, all to protect the secret about the lease and the fact that the two already know each other. Hu Xiu wakes up at home embarrassed, and comically, Jiu is locked in the attic because the door is broken. In that ridiculous situation, he reveals why she was hired and encourages her to dig back into her architectural knowledge for the Lyman competition. The next day, they head to the office together while trying to hide how close they have become. Then the atmosphere turns tense after an old controversial quote resurfaces, something Jiu once said about how he pursued architecture only to win awards. Lyman disqualifies Dynamism from the competition. Jiu suspects someone is trying to ruin his reputation to snatch the big project, but he is not out of options. A businessman who invited him to his daughter's wedding is hoping to meet a Lyman executive who will also attend, so Jiu uses that connection. Hu Shu comes along to accompany him and is captivated by the hotel and the lively wedding until she comes face to face with the groom, who turns out to be her own ex-fiancé, Zhang Qiran. Shocked and sick, she flees the crowd. Zhu catches the anxious way Qiran keeps glancing at her and immediately senses a big secret between them. Hu Shu approaches the bride to offer congratulations and mentions how hard it must be to pull off such a fast wedding. But the bride explains she has been with Qiran for over a year, which means Hu Shu has unknowingly been the other woman all along. Not wanting to ruin the wedding, she stays quiet. But Qiran's scheming mother locks her in the bathroom, afraid the family's rot will be exposed. Meanwhile, Zhiyu, who is meeting the Lyman executive, asks Hu Zhu to bring important documents to the meeting room. Knowing how crucial this is for dynamism, she boldly climbs out a window, leaves her shoes behind, and jumps from a height to deliver the files on time. Zhiyu presents the design concept she brought and owns up to his controversial words, explaining that to him an award is proof of how excellent a piece of work is, and chasing awards does not mean he takes a project any less seriously. The executive cancels the disqualification. Then Zhiyu sees Hu Shu looking like a mess and missing her shoes. He finds her sandals and medicine. Once he learns what really happened from the security footage, he invites her back to confront the people who hurt her. She does not want to ruin the wedding, but Zhiyu boldly presses Qiran's mother to apologize. He deeply despises injustice because of his own past. The tension explodes when the bride demands an explanation, and Hu Shu finally reveals that Qiran cheated on her and called off their engagement 3 months earlier. The wedding falls apart, and Qiran's family gets exactly what they deserve.
Sora?
Afterward, Zhiyu returns her shoes and carries her on his back. She feels guilty for wrecking his friendships, but he says he can repair them with a beneficial business deal. The next day, Dynamism's reputation is restored. The company traitor who spread the quote is exposed, though that person had already resigned before the mess unfolded. On the day of the meeting to discuss the competition terms, Hu Zhu crosses paths with the traitor who tries to cause chaos. She tries to stop him and nearly gets hurt until Pei Zhen steps in to help her. At this meeting, Dynamism comes together with other firms, including Forma, and it comes out that Pei Zhen had bribed the traitor to destroy Dynamism from within. Feeling the man went too far, Pei Zhen coldly discards him and gives him nothing more than a lowly position at Forma. Then Pei Zhen meets with Zhiyu, who already knows what he has done. The rivalry between them runs deeper than it looks. They are stepbrothers who once grew up together, torn apart after Zhiyu chose his own path and went off to study in the United States. When he returned to China, he built Dynamism from the ground up to rival Forma, the firm founded by the Pei family. Zhiyu warns his stepbrother that dirty tactics will only lead to ruin. At work, Zhiyu gives Hu Shu extra attention while her injured leg heals. He drives her home and even calls Xiaoru to make sure his new employee is okay, which touches Hu Shu and pushes her to prove her worth. Then she is sent to do a field survey alone for the Lyman project, and a heavy storm rolls in. With no taxis available, Pei Zhen, who is also at the site, offers her a ride. She refuses at first to avoid a conflict of interest, but the weather forces her to accept. Hearing that she is in Pei Zhen's car, Zhiyu, still traumatized by the earlier betrayal, rushes over, cuts them off, and moves her into his own car. He coldly warns her to keep her distance from Forma. Hu Shu is hurt, feeling he thinks she has no integrity and would turn on him easily. Xiaoru wants to help her husband build a relationship with a client through VR games and invites Hu Shu along so she will not be lonely. Hu Shu meets the client, Chen Jingxin, who is drawn to her, but whose rude behavior makes her avoid him mid-game. When she runs into Zhiyu playing as Xiao Yi, she sends him a subtle message that she is loyal and would never betray him. He acknowledges it and trusts her, and it is revealed he never distrusted her, only Forma. Jingxin, his ego bruised, takes his frustration out on Xiaoru and insults Hu Shu until a heated argument breaks out. She slaps him, and things escalate when he shoves her, sending a large statue toppling toward her. Zhiyu arrives just in time to shield her. Xiaoru and her husband head home and agree not to continue the collaboration. Hu Shu takes Jiyu to the hospital for his injured hand. The X-ray shows no broken bones, but he is told to avoid using the hand for a while. Terrible news for an architect in the middle of a major competition. Hu Shu's life at the coffee shop starts to fall apart when Jingxin uses his position as property manager to pressure her. He threatens to sue Xiaoru for turning her business space into a residence for Hu Shu, but promises to overlook it if Hu Shu apologizes and goes on a date with him. Refusing to be extorted, she decides to move out, though a short-term rental is hard to find. In the end, she proposes sharing a place with Jiyu, offering to handle all the housework and cooking while also serving as his drawing assistant. He agrees, and they move in together. Huaikong is stunned to see how his intensely private friend is willing to let someone into his life. Jiyu even seems to enjoy getting Hu Shu to do things for him, like washing his car in the rain, which turns into light-hearted fun when they start spraying each other with water. Jingxin keeps disturbing Hu Shu and finally chases her down in his car, nearly causing an accident. When he tries to flee, Pei Zhen, who happens to be at the scene, chases him down and hands him to the police. Pei Zhen plays the kind-hearted rescuer, but his real goal is to get close to Hu Shu so he can spy on Jiyu. After learning about the trouble, Jiyu uses his influence as the owner of Midnight Express to pressure the property company into firing Jingxin. Things improve. Xiaoru's business is safe, and at home, Hu Shu and Jiyu work in perfect harmony, with her becoming a reliable right hand for revising his drawings. But the peace shatters when Hu Shu's father shows up without warning. Unable to keep hiding, she comes clean, explaining Jiyu as a colleague and admitting she left her old job long ago to chase a career in architecture. Her father is deeply shaken, worried the field is too harsh for her, his guilt even deeper because she once sacrificed her dream of studying abroad to care for him after his accident. In tears, she says she has never regretted that decision, but architecture is her lifelong passion, one she cannot give up. Afterward, she shuts herself in her room, and Jiyu tries to lift her spirits. As they spend another night perfecting the drawings, she realizes the only way to convince her parents and to settle her own heart is to win the design competition. Alongside his work, Jiyu has a bigger plan, to uncover the truth behind his father's death years ago. His father was a renowned architect working on the Xincheng Stadium project, but during construction, the building collapsed and killed many people. His father was blamed for choosing substandard materials, and overwhelmed by guilt, he took his own life. His death was seen as irresponsible and drew widespread hatred. Jiyu believes he was innocent and suspects a conspiracy. His father's co-worker, Xu Feng, felt the same and told Jiyu, still a child back then, to wait until he grew up to investigate, promising to help him. From that point on, Jiyu studied hard until he could build his own firm and gather resources. Now Xu Feng is helping him look into everything connected to that old project, and the two slowly uncover clues that lead toward the truth. Living together gradually brings warmth into Jiyu's life. He is touched by Hu Shu's small acts of care, from reminding him to avoid alcohol during his recovery to bringing him crab-shaped pastries in place of the seafood he cannot eat. Then he accidentally reveals his hand has already healed. Hu Shu is furious, feeling she has been taken advantage of to handle his drawings, his car, and the housework. He keeps denying it, but deep down he is quietly happy to be cared for. Their harmony is disturbed when Hu Shu's father calls about a blind date he has arranged. Because the phone is on speaker, Jiyu overhears everything and feels an uneasy jealousy he cannot name. Then one night he is surprised to find that Hu Shu canceled the blind date to keep him company for dinner, and she has even prepared a thank you cake for helping her career by putting her name on the Lyman project. That evening slowly melts the frost in his heart. That night, following Jiyu's advice to settle her internal problems before facing external ones, Hu Shu goes to her parents' home to make peace. She shares that her architecture career keeps growing, which moves her father to tears. He expresses regret, feeling his leg injury held her dream back, but she warmly reassures him that Jiyu is a reliable boss, so there is nothing to worry about. After a lot of snooping, Pei-Jen learns of Zhiyu's idea for the competition, a hotel concept with the feel of a traditional alley, which explains why Zhiyu insisted on renting in the alley to study it. Pei-Jen steals the idea and announces it publicly, throwing dynamism into a panic, afraid they will be accused of copying. Under the pressure, Hushu comforts Zhiyu and tells him about her childhood in the alley, a place full of memories that can never be replaced. That story opens his eyes to the truth that the real essence of an alley lies in its memories, not just its architecture, and it changes the direction of his design. On the day of the competition, Zhiyu presents the concept of a city where time flows, blending VR technology with the collective memories of the residents who still live in the alley, beating Pei-Jen's concept by a single vote. The victory brings Hushu and Zhiyu even closer. After the project wraps up, she spends her weekend at Raigard. When she hears that Pei-Jen has gone to Midnight Express, she panics and rushes over to stop him from confronting Zhiyu, afraid the two will fight. The climax of that encounter is Pei-Jen's admission in front of many people that Zhiyu is his brother. On the way home, Zhiyu explains they are not blood-related. His mother married Pei-Jen's father, and for certain reasons he could never get along with the Pei family, which also strained his bond with his mother. Hushu learns more from Huaikong, who has been visiting Rigard often. He tells her Zhiyu is a loner and a hard worker who paid for his own education while living abroad. In the past, Zhiyu's life as a stepbrother was fine at first, but one day he overheard his stepfather, Pei Kanghua, talking with someone about a secret regarding the collapse of Xincheng Stadium. Zhiyu suspected Kanghua was responsible for his father's death and began to hate him, though he had no proof and did not want to worry his mother. In the end, he cut ties with the Pei family to live his own life. Seeing how cold and seemingly ungrateful he acted, Pei-Jen began to hate him, and that damaged their relationship. Back in the present, Zhiyu finds a suspicious trail about his father's death that does connect to the Pei family, strengthening his reason to hate them. At an office celebration, Hushu avoids alcohol and only eats mushrooms, but she ends up poisoned by undercooked mushrooms that leave her hallucinating on the ride home. In that half-conscious state, she sees the figure of Xiao Yi, tells him how handsome he is, and kisses him.
To make a long romantic dream, just you and me.
The next morning she wakes with a medical report in her hands, but no memory of the kiss. Later, while playing the VR game and meeting Xiao Yi, she recalls the kiss and hurriedly explains, it was the poisonous mushrooms. Meanwhile, Xiaoru learns her husband quit his job to start a business. She is not angry, only disappointed that he never told her, and even though he says he did not want to worry her, she feels that as his wife she has the right to know so she can support him. When Zhiyu visits his mother, he hopes to go with her to his father's grave, but she refuses because she still believes her late husband was irresponsible and left them to face public condemnation alone. Meanwhile, Hushu visits, with her parents, the grave of her father's co-worker who died in the collapse of Xincheng Stadium, the same incident that left her father's leg injured for life. At the grave of Zhiyu's father, Pei-Jen shows up carrying a wreath, but Zhiyu does not appreciate the gesture. An emotional Pei-Jen mocks Zhiyu's decision to change his real name so he would not be ridiculed as the son of a murderer. His birth name was Xiao Yi, the very one he now uses in the VR game. Zhiyu stays calm and firmly says Forma and the Pei family will collapse because of their own filthy deeds. Driven by hatred, Pei-Jen monopolizes the supply of ceramic tiles that Dynamism needs for the Lyman project. Refusing to give up, Hushu searches for an alternative and finds a small factory that can supply what they need. At the Lyman celebration, she looks beautiful in a gown Zhiyu personally chose for her and instantly becomes the center of attention, even leaving Pei-Jen captivated. The biggest surprise comes when Zhiyu announces on stage that Dynamism will collaborate with Forma on the Lyman Hotel project because of their extensive network for quality materials, despite the fact that Hushu had fought so hard to find an independent supplier. Although disappointed, she trusts that her boss has his reasons. As the Lunar New Year approaches, Jiu declines the invitation to his stepfather's house and only delivers a gift for his mother. After visiting Xu Feng, he wanders the alley. Hu Shu's father, visiting her home, spots him and invites him to dinner. In the simple, lively warmth of her family, Jiu feels a peace he has not known in a long time. After dinner, the two share a quiet moment on the rooftop. Hu Shu shares her resolution to finish the Lyman project and develop her own designs, while Jiu admits he wants to find the answer behind his father's death, something he cannot tell her about. Caught in the mood, Hu Shu works up the courage to kiss him, but he pulls away. Hurt and confused, she spends the night restless, and her disappointment peaks when Huaikong is sent to collect Jiu's belongings, as if he wants to cut ties with her at once. Frustrated, she returns the gown and sends Huaikong away with cutting words. At the office, they fall back into a purely professional relationship. Pei Zhen comes by to discuss the collaboration and hands out expensive gifts to the whole staff, along with chocolates for Hu Shu. He then asks her to serve as the liaison between dynamism and forma, and Jiu does not stop her, letting her work professionally. Hu Shu soon realizes Pei Zhen's attention is nothing more than a tool to dig up information about Jiu, so she politely keeps her boundaries. At the construction site, though, Pei Zhen reveals a surprising side of himself as a competent boss who puts safety first. Impressed, she shares that her father once suffered a permanent injury in a construction accident, and Pei Zhen responds with genuine sincerity. Meanwhile, Jiu grows anxious when Hu Shu does not come back after going out with Pei Zhen. Their relationship has stayed cold since New Year's Eve, and watching Pei Zhen keep showing her attention, Jiu begins to worry, not just about losing a great employee, but about losing the woman who has nearly made her way into his heart. When Hu Shu finishes eating with Pei Zhen at Forma, Jiu is already waiting outside and insists on taking her home, using his responsibility as her boss as the excuse. On another front, Xiaoru faces troubles in her marriage. Her husband, far too busy, keeps missing important moments, and at its peak, he is secretly in contact with a woman who was his junior in college. Even though the contact is only business, the woman likes him and threatens their home. Then one day, Xiaoru sees the woman kiss her husband, and her heart is shattered. She tells Hu Shu everything and decides to divorce, admitting she let too many small mistakes slide until they piled up beyond repair. Hu Shu stays by her side all night. While surveying a construction site for another project, Jiu takes Hu Shu to a dark corridor, and that darkness triggers a deep childhood trauma tied to his father's death. Even though he is scared, when Hu Shu steps into the corridor to take photos, he forces himself to follow, a small but meaningful step in facing his old wound, and this time he is not alone. Xiaoru's husband tries to save their marriage, but there is no reasonable excuse for her to accept. Ironically, she ends the marriage in the very place where they first met, admitting the beautiful early moments were genuine, which is exactly what makes the betrayal hurt more.
谢谢。
我们是工作伙伴，不管。
She chooses to focus on her career, searching for new menu inspiration and forging a collaboration between Regard and Midnight Express. Elsewhere, Pei Zhen discovers systematic financial manipulation at his father's company. The reports show continuous profit when the company is actually suffering enormous losses, all to protect its reputation and share value. When confronted, his father shows no remorse and calls the falsified reports a necessary survival tactic, reminding Pei Zhen that they are on the same side. In his anger, his father hurls a glass, cutting Pei Zhen's forehead until it bleeds. Hu Shu finds him in that state and dresses his wound with genuine care. On the office terrace, Pei Zhen asks whether a building must always follow its original blueprint once the foundation is laid, and Hu Shu answers that although the foundation is hard to change, the final look can still be modified with new ideas and vision. It is an answer that quietly tells him he can still decide his own path, regardless of his father's will. The collaboration between Regard and Midnight Express goes wonderfully, and it turns out Huaikong has long admired Xiaoru, which is why he visits so often. After accidentally seeing her divorce agreement, his interest deepens, and he hopes to win her heart. Jiu feels he does not deserve happiness until he clears his father's name, which is exactly why he rejected Hu Shu's kiss and keeps his distance. But his feelings cannot lie, and he keeps thinking about her. One day he takes on the role of Xiao Yi outside the schedule to meet her in the same VR session. Inside the game, Hu Shu plays a woman about to be married who must seek the approval of Xiao Yi as the ruler of the region, but he refuses her, deviating from the storyline. Frustrated, she says the man she is about to marry in the game is truly sincere, willing to speak his feelings and not complicated. Even knowing the jab is aimed at him, Xiao Yi stays unmoved. Toward the end, Hu Shu finally erupts. In tears, she confronts Jiu over the cold yet caring behavior that has drained her for too long and says she is tired. Moved by her honesty and afraid of losing her, he pulls her into a hidden corner and kisses her. After the game, she messages him asking whether they are now officially a couple, and to her surprise, he is suddenly standing right behind her, confirming their relationship and promising to protect her heart. Elsewhere, Huaikong accidentally finds security footage of Jiu and Hu Shu kissing in the game and tells Xiao Ru, and the two scheme to catch the new couple being affectionate. On the investigation side, it comes out that Jiu deliberately partnered with Forma so he could look into which parties are working with the Pei family. Kanghua abruptly cuts ties with one of the building material producers managed by Huang Yide, and Jiu takes this as proof that Kanghua is making his own moves, likely connected to the old case. Pei Zhen starts developing feelings for Hu Shu after she helped him when he was hurt, and to show his sincerity, he brings her a luxurious meal under the pretense of returning the favor. She cannot bring herself to refuse, which makes Jiu jealous, so he invents an excuse to keep her working overtime so he can be alone with her. In that moment, he apologizes for not yet introducing her to his mother and explains their long, strained relationship. Hu Shu encourages him to be more open so he can rebuild the family bond. Meanwhile, Huaikong, trying to get closer to Xiao Ru, acts like a playboy surrounded by women. But she does not believe it, and it turns out that although he often switches between luxury cars, no woman has ever been seen in his passenger seat, proving he is hopeless at romance. At the Regard collaboration event, Hu Shu helps as a part-time server. Pei Zhen sees the post about the event, comes by carrying flowers, and buys her an expensive silk scarf to cover a coffee stain on her neck. She politely declines, saying the gift is far too precious. Pei Zhen goes home glum and is immediately met by his angry father, furious that he dared to inspect the company's books. Kanghua even strikes him with a cane until his mouth bleeds. Alone in his room, Pei Zhen holds the scarf she refused, in tears. Meanwhile, Jiu and Xu Fang's investigation keeps progressing, and they discover that in recent years, Kanghua has always supported Yide financially, raising the question of why the Pei family would help him so much. One day, Hu Shu invites Jiu on a trip. He hopes to spend time alone with her, but is disappointed to learn Huaikong and Xiao Ru are coming too. At the resort, they enjoy the cherry blossom garden, the Ferris wheel, and photos together, until Jiu has to handle some midnight express work with Huaikong. Right after, he cannot reach Hu Shu, and his anxiety spikes when nearby tourists mention an accident, triggering awful memories of his father's death. His face goes pale and he runs to the scene. Fortunately, she is fine. Her phone had simply died. He embraces her with relief and says he cannot imagine losing her.
关键台，谢谢啊。
Don't rush to wake up. Will you stay with me?
That night, while Huaikong and Xiaoru drink at the hotel, Hu Shu and Jiu head up a hill, where he opens his old wound about his father's sudden death when he was a child, and how without her, he feels like a balloon set loose with nothing to hold it down. She promises to always hold him tightly, and they share a kiss under the moonlight. On the drive back, Jiu notices people sent by Kanghua following Hu Xiu. For her safety, he does not take her back to the alley but brings her to his apartment, where security is far better. He registers her fingerprint on the door and fills the fridge with her favorite foods, and during her stay, she adds cute little items that make the apartment feel alive. For the first time, Jiu feels the true meaning of home when Hu Xiu waits for him to have dinner together. Jiu visits Pei Zhen to return a lunchbox Hu Xiu once received as a gift and firmly orders his father to stop spying on her since she has nothing to do with their problems. Pei Zhen is surprised but admits his father loves to control everything. When Pei Zhen confronts him, Kanghua angrily explains who Hu Xiu really is. He is afraid that her father, a victim of the stadium accident, could become one of the many threats to his old secret. Meanwhile, Kanghua faces a crisis when Yidi asks for more money to pay off his company's debts, and he refuses. Yidi then threatens to expose the truth behind the collapse of Xincheng Stadium, the death of Jiu's father, and Kanghua's involvement in all of it. Everything becomes clear. Forma keeps losing money because Kanghua is being extorted by Yide, who holds his secret. Jiu makes an important decision and officially hands the management of Midnight Express to Huai Kong, a symbol that he has moved on and no longer wants to be trapped in his old life as Xiao Yi. At Regard, Hu Xiu hears from Huai Kong that Jiu received a blind date invitation arranged by his mother. She tries not to care, but her jealousy is plain, and she secretly follows him and sees him giving a gift to his date. Before she can slip away, Pei Zhen, who happens to be there, stops her and asks whether she has a special relationship with Jiu. Not long after, Jiu appears and ends the interrogation by admitting Hu Xiu is his girlfriend while holding her hand. He then explains the woman is only an old friend who is already engaged, and the gift was simply a note of congratulations. To win over Hu Xiu, who is still sulking, he gives her tickets to a concert that is extremely hard to get and that she has long wanted. At work, Jiu reports Forma's financial fraud to Lehman, which ends their partnership with that firm. Then he introduces the ceramic producer Hu Xiu had worked so hard to find, so the Lyman Hotel project keeps moving forward even without Forma. On the night of the concert, Hu Xiu and Jiu share a tender kiss. But crisis strikes from two directions at once. Hu Xiu's father receives an anonymous envelope with documents revealing that Jiu's biological father was the architect behind the collapse of Xincheng Stadium, the disaster that left his leg permanently disabled. Shaken and furious, he rushes to see his daughter, but is struck by a car. At the same time, Jiu's true identity as Xiao Yi and his father's past leak all over the internet. Even under a storm of condemnation, Jiu stays focused on Hu Xiu and takes her to the hospital where her father is being treated, quietly handling all the paperwork himself. Behind all of this, it is revealed that Pei Zhen deliberately exposed Jiu's identity. He has always envied Jiu because he could never surpass him, in work or in love, and after losing everything, he felt Jiu should feel it too. Hu Xiu arrives to find her father just out of surgery. After hearing that Jiu's father was behind the collapse that disabled her own father, she is thrown into inner turmoil. In a heavy confrontation, in tears, she tells Jiu that loving him was a mistake that is hard to undo. She shares the story of her father's friend who died at the site, a man who kept working even while his wife was pregnant, only to lose his life when the building collapsed, and how her father feels deeply guilty for indirectly placing his friend in that tragedy. She does not blame Jiu, but she cannot bear to watch her father sink deeper into guilt while his daughter dates the man tied to his dark past. With a heavy heart, she ends the relationship, wishing she had never fallen for him. In the middle of the chaos, Jiu releases a public statement bravely acknowledging his identity as Xiao Yi and his father's past. Thanks to his good reputation, almost no one is swayed. The Lyman executive affirms he will keep working with dynamism, and it comes out that the executive once knew Jiu's father and believes he was innocent. Pei Zhen visits the hospital to try his luck with Hu Xiu, but when he tries to belittle Jiu using his father's past, she fiercely defends her ex, pointing out that the name change was his parents' decision and that Jiu is not to blame for the tragedy. In an unexpected turn, Hu Shu goes to Zhiyu's apartment to grab his laptop for a project. Finding the place a mess, she cannot resist tidying it and ends up meeting Zhiyu's mother. Even though she tries to leave, his mother holds her back until her son arrives, which is exactly when Zhiyu takes Hu Shu's hand and introduces her as the woman he loves. Now that his mother has met her, Zhiyu has one firm resolve: the only way to win Hu Shu back is to clear his father's name. After meeting Yide, who keeps running from loan sharks, Zhiyu offers to pay off his company's debt on the condition that he hand over the secret he used to extort Forma. Meanwhile, Hu Shu seems to already know what her ex is going through. She stumbles into a secret room in his apartment and sees investigation files about the collapse of Xincheng Stadium. When Zhiyu finds her, he asks her to go home for her safety, but she insists she has the right to know the truth because her father is a victim too. In the end, he tells her everything, bringing them to a deeper understanding. She finally realizes how heavy his obstacles are and why he loves spending his time as Xiao Yi in the game, as if holding on to the last memories of his past. Meanwhile, Pei Zhen realizes his father's company is on the brink of collapse and blames Zhiyu for getting Forma dropped from the Lyman project. In retaliation, he reports Zhiyu to the police, accusing him of leaking company secrets, which puts Dynamism under investigation. When the two stepbrothers finally come to blows, Zhiyu's mother witnesses it, but instead of defending her own son, she asks him to stop his obsession with the past because she does not want her family destroyed. Zhiyu is stunned and asks whether he is even part of the family she means. Hu Shu, caring for her father at home, cannot reach Zhiyu and finally pours everything out. She admits she cannot forget him and wants to be by his side. Realizing he can no longer keep them apart, her father finally gives his blessing. After searching the apartment and office with no luck, Hu Shu finds Zhiyu inside the VR game. In a tearful embrace, he admits how painful his mother's words were, that he fought to hold on to a family that never considered him one of their own. She reassures him that now they are each other's family, and the two officially get back together. Right after, they get good news from Yide, who is willing to accept Zhiyu's help and reveals the location of the evidence of the Pei family's crimes. Elsewhere, Kanghua, desperate because he cannot capture Yide, takes extreme measures and finds his own clue about the criminal evidence Yide hid in an old warehouse. Planning to burn it down, he captures Hu Shu and holds her there as a final attempt to make Zhiyu stop his investigation. Zhiyu refuses and races to the scene to rescue her from the warehouse, which is already on fire. After she is safe, Hu Shu remembers a suspicious concrete block with a handwritten QR code different from all the others. As it turns out, before she was captured, she had managed to tell Zhiyu about this discovery, and he sent Xu Feng to retrieve it. Inside that block was a memory card that had held all the evidence this entire time. Armed with the truth, Zhiyu confronts Kanghua in front of his mother and his stepbrother. He reveals that 20 years ago, his father's stadium design had no flaws. The collapse was caused by Kanghua, who secretly swapped the steel components for cheap materials to make a profit, then forged documents to frame his father as the one who signed off on them. The mystery of the death is also revealed. Kanghua wanted to silence Zhiyu's father as the only witness to his crime, but ended up killing him by accident. Feeling guilty, Kanghua married Zhiyu's mother while continuing to funnel money to Yide, who knew about his crime. Because Yide was not entirely to blame, Zhiyu helped him escape after paying his debt and received the clue about the hidden evidence. Hearing all this, Zhiyu's mother is shattered, realizing she spent 2 decades resenting her late husband, while the man she married was the one who destroyed everything. Zhu turns the evidence over to the police, and the news explodes. The investigation into the collapse is reopened, and his father's name is finally cleared after 20 years. Kanghua is detained on a string of charges, from corruption and bribery to document forgery and murder. At work, the investigation into dynamism is dropped after Pei-Zhen turns himself in for the data leak charge he had pinned on Jiyu, though he only receives a light punishment. Jiyu visits his father's grave with his mother, who feels deeply guilty for running from her pain and leaving him to bear the truth alone. After filing for divorce from Kanghua, she plans to return to America once the process is complete and promises to come home someday to help with her son's wedding. After Hu Xiu recovers from carbon monoxide poisoning in the hospital, she visits her parents with Jiyu. The old misunderstandings are cleared, and there is no reason left for her father to forbid the relationship. Even so, when Jiyu expresses his intention to propose and marry, she makes it clear she is not ready to marry anytime soon. Back at the apartment together, she opens her heart and tells him he is the one who gave her the courage to chase her passion again. She wants to focus on her career before marriage to make up for lost time, and Jiyu understands and promises to wait while supporting her. Pei-Zhen returns to a home that is now cold and empty, his father imprisoned and his stepmother gone. He calls Jiyu for one final meeting and reveals that the name Forma was actually chosen by Jiyu's father, and that there was a time when their fathers had been good friends. He admits he spent his whole life competing with Jiyu, only to realize it all meant nothing. After sincerely apologizing, he prepares to leave the city to find his own path, remembering Hu Xiu's words that the final form of a building is not determined by its foundation, but by the vision of the architect. In the middle of a date, Jiyu tells Hu Xiu that he and his mother will return to America to handle property documents, and he suggests she stay at his place while he is away, using easy office access as the reason, though the real reason is that he wants her to be the first person he sees when he comes home. She happily accepts. Meanwhile, Huaikong constantly keeps Xiaoru company as she heals from her divorce, often helping her run the cafe, and she admits she has grown used to being his neighbor and does not want to be far from him. On the day of departure, after a tight embrace at the office, Jiyu leaves, and the house that once felt warm now feels empty. One night, on a video call, Hu Xiu admits how much she misses him and is not sure she can keep holding out, especially while preparing her own design project. Jiyu directs her to a drawer in his study, where he left a diary titled "Architecture in Love," filled with poetic words. After reading it, she gains a powerful surge of confidence that carries her through her presentation. After discussing her proposal with the client, she walks out overjoyed because her project succeeded, and she quickly calls Jiyu, only to be stunned that he has come home early. In the rain, they let go of their umbrellas and kiss. As a celebration, Jiyu takes her to the top of a skyscraper he designed himself, where they enjoy a simple convenience store dinner while gazing over the whole city. Beneath the open sky, he kisses her and captures the moment in a photograph. The story ends when Midnight Express brings a new script into their game. In the internal testing phase, Jiyu, Huaikong, and Xiaoru step in as players. Hu Xiu is said to be unable to join, but it is later revealed as a trick to surprise Jiyu, because she is actually already inside the game as a brand new NPC. In the world they built together, everyone finally steps forward into the future they chose for themselves, so the moral of the story is never flirt with an NPC. You might accidentally end up dating the CEO, solving a 20-year conspiracy, and still getting stuck doing the housework.